clear that up for you. All right. So in terms of getting ready for the lesson here, it says many items come in different sizes. What do you consider when deciding which size to buy? So it says cat food comes in many different flavors and sizes. Kendra Hester chooses based on price, nutritional value, and flavor. Most of the time when people are shopping, especially, or I guess for anything really, um, cost is a factor, but it's not usually the only factor. So right here it says cat food based on price, nutritional value, and flavor. Um, what are some other things that you all look for? Type this in. What are some other things that you look for aside from price when you're shopping? And this could be for food. It could be for anything. Um, so if you're shopping for something, I know that price is a factor, but what other things do you consider? Type those things in. And I might single a few people out in here since I know a few things about some of the folks that are in this class. So, for example, I know Spencer is really into cars. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and ask Spencer if you're looking for, like, I don't know, something to upgrade your car with. Um, what other factors aside from price do you consider?
Quality of the part.
Yeah, because that matters, right? If you're just looking at cost, chances are the cheapest one is going to not really be all that high of a quality, which means you're probably going to end up having to buy another one at some point.
Yeah, I have a really good example.
Okay, go
My
for it.
2000 Subaru Impreza
Yeah.
had coilovers from eBay for $200.
Okay.
Really good coilovers, but they're cheap quality. So
Hmm.
they over time, they the quality of it went just like you'd think. Cheap parts, cheap quality.
Yeah.
So I bought another set of the same coilovers, and they worked exactly the same how I expected it.
Hmm.
I'm thinking if I would have bought like some what are they called? Some high performance coilovers.
Like Olin's or something
Finleys.
like that.
Yeah, like something that costs like around 2K
Right.
rather than 200
Uh-huh.
would have lasted me a lot longer, and I would have had a lot more options I could have done with the coilovers.
Definitely. Yeah, and things like that too. I mean, it's 10 times the cost and it might last more than 10 times as long. Plus, if you decide to sell the car, you're going to be able to get more money if you have a nicer brand of coilovers as opposed to something that's not going to last very long, right?
Exactly, and
Yeah.
for a Subarus, like the BC racing coilovers have
Mhm.
a really big name along with Cobb tuning. So when people hear Cobb and
Mhm.
BC coilovers,
Yep.
they get excited and they think they're getting a better deal rather
Exactly.
than someone saying it just has eBay
Yeah.
coilovers.
Yeah, that's a really good example. So there's always a balance, and it doesn't matter what you're buying. It could be I know like Ian is into technology, and the same thing is true, right? If you buy something based only, yeah, computer parts. If you buy something only on price, chances are, if you buy the cheapest one, you're going to end up replacing it, and then you're just going to have to spend the same amount of money again, or you might even spend more because you wish you would have bought the nicer one in the first place, because it's going to last you longer. So there's always a balance between price and quality, how long something is going to last, and so that's always going to be a factor in decision making. Most of the time there's that sweet spot between quality and price. So let's see. Yeah. Yeah, if you have a cheap power supply or if you have really inadequate cooling and you're running like a gaming rig, um, and that cooling system fails, not only does the cooling system have to be replaced, a lot of your other parts are going to have to be replaced too because it's going to overheat. Same thing with cars, right? If you buy a really, high performance car and you want to upgrade the cooling system in the engine, you better get yourself a much nicer cooling upgrade because if your other parts start to overheat, you're going to replace them pretty quickly. Um, but it also depends on, I mean, you also think about other things like sunglasses. For me, I can't stand spending more than like $10 or $12 on a pair of sunglasses because I don't do a really good job all the time of keeping track of where they're at. So if I were to buy a really expensive pair of sunglasses, that wouldn't really do me any good because I probably end up losing them. Um, and so there are some things where it's like, well, yeah, I'm not going to use these for very long. They're going to get replaced um, pretty soon anyway. So you may as well cheap out on those, on things of that nature. So things that you don't really care about or things that you know are going to be replaced quickly, you can just go straight price. Don't worry about it. Um, it's gonna get destroyed at some point anyway. You may as well just go cheap because you're gonna have to keep replacing those things no matter what. But if you want something that's gonna last, you know, you're probably gonna want to spend a little bit more money on it, whatever that thing is. And those things are usually things that you care about more. So hobbies and things like that, you're gonna want to spend a little bit more money on. If you're into art, and making art, your art supplies, you're probably not going to want to buy the cheapest art supplies because chances are they're not going to give you the highest quality with your finished product. And so the better supplies you end up with, um, chances are your art's going to look, that much nicer, or the products will last longer. Like if you have art pens or things like that, you want to make sure they're going to last a long time and not dry out. So you're going to probably have to spend a little bit more money on those things. So whatever it is, there are always more than just price to consider. However, today we're going to be looking at just cost because it's a financial type class. So that's what we're going to be zeroing in on today. So, yeah, friend who's insistent on getting cheaper things. Yeah, and it's true. It's hard. It's hard when you're actually making that purchase because you're like, man, I don't want to spend that much more money because I don't really want to, or I can't really afford it right now. And you end up just going with the cheapest thing. Well, cheap stuff oftentimes wears out a lot faster. But like I said, there's usually that sweet spot. Don't buy the most expensive thing, don't buy the cheapest thing, but find that nice crossover between good quality and good value. So, and I think, the more you shop, and I would always recommend anything that's going to cost you any kind of money that you have to think about a purchase, go online and look at reviews. Read reviews from people who own it, read reviews from professionals, watch review videos on YouTube, whatever you need to do to figure out what that nice balance is going to be between quality and cost. So in terms of unit pricing, grocery stores often give the unit price for their products. Unit pricing is a technique that allows shoppers to compare the prices of various items. Use this information to determine which size of a product is the best buy based on price. So we're just going to be looking at price. So we're not going to be considering quality or anything like that. For me, like food-wise, I love cheese. Like cheese is amazing. And I don't necessarily like the really cheap store brand cheese because I like a good quality cheese. So I usually will pay a little bit more money for Tillamook because I like it better. And that's a personal choice that I make, but I end up eating it because cheese is delicious. So that's just a really kind of silly example, but we're going to be looking today, like I said, just at the unit price today. So this first example shows us that we've got paper plates, and they're buying paper plates, and there's 55 plates in the package. And the price for the package of 55 plates is $1.10. The unit price says it's 2 cents per plate. So we're looking at 55 plates, 2 cents a plate, $1.10 for the total cost. So what we're going to be looking at here, our little formula that we're going to use is we're looking at unit pricing. So unit cost is equal to the cost of the product divided by the total count. And total count could be the number of things inside of it, or number of ounces or pounds or whatever it is. So for this particular example, we are going to have the price, the cost of the product right here, $1.10. So 1.10 divided by the total count. And the count per package here is 55. So, and really all we're doing on this one is we're just double checking to make sure that this 2 cents, or just kind of showing you where this 2 cents per unit comes from. So this is going to be 0.02, which means we're looking at, so that's $1.10 divided by 55 plates, which means we end up with 2 cents per plate. And that's all it is. This is something I think that, or at least I know anyway, I have taught like middle school, like 8th grade math before, and I know that unit cost is part of that. So chances are you've learned it, but on the other hand, chances are it's probably been 3 years, 4 years, maybe more for some people since you've done something similar to this. So that's kind of why we're taking a little bit of time on this today. Plus, we get to talk a little bit more about like the practicality of it as well. So I'm going to be using groceries kind of as an example for some of these today. I think we got a few more that we're going to be looking at. Yeah, so we're looking at, again, looking at a lot of grocery type things, examples today. So if it's perishable stuff, you know, you're not just going to buy the cheapest per unit price, because if you buy way too much and you can't use it in time, then you have to throw stuff out, and then you're not only wasting food, but you're wasting money, and you know, it's like a double whammy on that one. So, you know, just buy as much as you're going to use. But if it's non-perishable stuff, like stuff that isn't going to go bad, that's why Costco is so popular, because you get really large sizes of things that aren't going to go bad, and you can buy them for, the total cost is a little more, but the cost per unit is quite a bit less for a lot of cases. All right, so our next example, Shane Ladd purchased a 64-ounce container of orange juice for $3.49, a 2-liter bottle of bleach for $1.99, and a dozen ears of sweet corn for $3.50. What is the unit price of each item to the nearest tenth of a cent? So this is where things are going to be a little bit different. We're not actually rounding to the nearest whole cent. We're actually rounding to the nearest tenth of a cent. Which is going to be, so if we go back here, the nearest cent is the nearest 2 decimal places. The nearest tenth of a cent is going to be 3 decimal places. So the nearest tenth of a cent, which is 3 decimal places. I'm just going to be really detailed about making sure that we note that. All right. So let's see, orange juice. So we've got 3 things that we're finding the unit cost of. First one is the orange juice. All right. Now the orange juice, again, we've got our unit price is the cost divided by the total count. So cost divided by total count. So the cost of the orange juice, $3.49. For 64 ounces. So all we have to do is divide this. So it's going to be 3.49 divided by 64. And then we are rounding to the nearest tenth of a cent, so 3 decimal places. There we go, 349. That's 3.49 divided by 64 is 0.0545. So we're going to the 3 decimal places, that's the 4. But the decimal place after that is 5 or more, which rounds this 4 up to a 5. So we're looking at, in dollars, 0.055 per ounce. And so we can either write it like this, because this is technically nearest tenth of a cent, or if you want to write it as cents, you can. So I'm going to say, or 5.5 cents per ounce. Same thing. So either one of those answers is acceptable. So if you write it in dollars, you got 0.055. If you write it in terms of cents, it's 5.5 cents. And the reason why we can do either one is because it says rounded to the nearest tenth of a cent. So either one's fine. The next one was bleach. So let's see, bleach was $1.99 for 2 liters. So basically we're figuring out how much it is for 1 liter. So let's see, $1.99 for 2 liters is equal to 0.995. So and that's for 1 liter. So that's 99.5 cents. So we can say, or 99.5 cents per liter. The other one is a dozen ears of sweet corn for $3.50. All right, so how many is a dozen? Somebody type that in. How many is a dozen? $12, yeah, so 12 ears. Okay. So $3.50 for 12 ears of corn. So let's see, 350 divided by 12. That's going to be, so 0.291, but the 6 after that rounds the 1 up to a 2, so 0.292. So for 1 ear, or we can go with 29.2 cents per ear. All right. So it's just cost divided by number of whatever units you're dealing with. So ears of corn, liters of bleach, ounces of orange juice, whatever that happens to be. And notice as well that I'm including the units, the dollars, and I'm including ounces, liters, ears. It'll make things a little bit easier because then you won't have to go back to the problem and be like, wait, was that, what was the unit of measurement that I was actually using? So if you include it in the problem, if you write it out there, you won't have to go back into the paragraph and like, what was that? So just makes things a little bit easier. Last 2 examples here, and then we'll call it a day. So a 4.5 pound chicken costs $5.25. So we're going for basically per pound. So cost of chicken, how much is the chicken per pound? So $5.25 for 4.5 pounds. All right, somebody do the math on that one and tell me how much is it going to be per pound? Okay, so if we round it, it'll be, if we do round it to the nearest cent, it would be $1.67. I 100% agree with that, but we're also going, like the last ones, we're going to the nearest, so 1/10 of a cent like we did on these ones here. We've got that same idea down here as well, so 1/10 of a cent. So just go to 3 decimal places. And oh, actually, you know what? The 6-7 is correct. I think you just forgot the 1 at the beginning there. That's all it is. So 1.167 dollars per pound. Cool. So that's like $1.16.7 per pound. This one here, I wouldn't necessarily recommend writing this one in cents, but you could say, or 116.7 cents per pound. You could do that. It's not incorrect. So if you wanted to, you could use either one of those to the nearest 1/10 of a cent. Might make things look a little bit more normal because we're not used to seeing 3 decimal places when we're using dollars, but 1 decimal when we're using cents looks a little bit more natural, I think. All right, so second one, last example here. I'm gonna go ahead and freeze the dot cam here. Go ahead and write in an answer when you think you have the answer for this last one here. And remember, it's always cost divided by total count. So what's the price for 1 bag for that second example? Yeah, 0.115 exactly. So $0.115 per bag or 11.5 cents per bag. So it's 2.29 divided by 20 bags. That's 0.1145. So the third, we're rounding to the nearest third decimal place. So the 4, but the number after it, that 5 would round this 4 up to a 5 as well. So 0.115 for 1 bag or 11.5 cents for every bag. All right. So that's it for the notes. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the assignment, and then we'll be done for the day. Get out of here a little bit early. So just a quick reminder here, you're taking, it says right here, directions nearest 1/10 of a cent. Taking the price, dividing by the number of items. So same thing for 9, nearest 1/10 of a cent. Same thing for 10. Number 11, there are 4 different things, which is why you see 4 different boxes there. 12. This one, it's a little bit different on that one. You have to think a little bit harder, I think, on number 12. And then 13, there's quite a few things that you have to find the unit price for, but with all these boxes here, you'll know how many things you need to find the price for. 14, same idea, there's 4 of them. And then the last one, just write a sentence. It says paragraph, I crossed that off and wrote sentence. I don't need to write a paragraph. Just write a sentence explaining why in problem number 14 right here, the price for the sunscreen and the lip balm was actually more than the selling price. So that's kind of an interesting thing there with number 15. Before we go, just real quick, I sent out emails today. If you got an email from me, that means you are not yet at a passing grade, which we're not quite halfway through the term, which means you still have plenty of time to bring your grade up.